everybody, and welcome back. So today I want to talk to you about my C-3PO build and where I'm currently at in this project. But first, I want to talk about some of the questions you guys have been asking me. I guess it's really just one big question. How do you build a C-3PO? It's a big open-ended question, but I'll try to do my best to describe the two main paths that I've actually been seeing people do. So I'm still relatively new into the C-3PO builders group, but I've been doing my best to read and take in all the advice of the other builders. But really there are two main ways. The first is you can go and you can buy parts from other makers. There are people making parts out of fiberglass, people are vacuum forming, people have resin, brass parts, rubber parts. So you can go, there's a Facebook group called C-3PO Builders Group. Great resources there, and you can also do a lot of Googling and do your research. And you can find a bunch of these parts, and people tend to mix and match some of these things together to finally create their suit. The second one really would never have been possible if it wasn't for the advances in 3D printing over the last several years, getting it to a point where it's mainstream, where it's affordable for us regular makers to have it. You know, and like, for example, mine's sitting in my basement and I can print 24/7 now. We have one person, I guess, is really big to thank on that, as if you go over to Thingiverse, type in Jesse M. He has created some amazing files for you to create your own, print out your own wearable C-3PO suit. And Jesse's files are really what a lot of the makers have been using lately. And when these suits are finished properly, you can't even tell that they've been 3D printed. And Jesse's files are actually what I'm using right now to create mine. The thing to note about the two different ways that you can go about building, if you choose to source the parts, you're going to have less flexibility in fit versus 3D printing. So, thing to note is the parts that if you go and buy the fiberglass parts, things of that, you do tend to need to be much closer to Anthony Daniel's physique. There are makers that are creating these parts in kind of small, medium, and large, but it's still a little challenging to get these to fit you, where 3D printing provides you a lot more options, specifically in body shape and size, to actually create a suit that's going to fit you. And actually fit, that's probably one of the more challenging things with this costume, because it is very tight fit, and even it's people, you know, you think of C-3PO, it's a bit of restrictive movement. However, it actually does move well for what it is, and this is why fit is really important in order to be able to capture those proper movements of C-3PO. It's almost like the suit has to be made for you, so it has to fit you really well, or you're going to end up being very, very stiff. And as much as, you know, C-3PO does walk stiffly, he is very animated in his movements, and if you really want to capture that character, you need to make sure that the suit that you create for yourself, you're able to move in that, and that all really comes down to that fit. So I want to kind of just jump back over to 3D printing and to the Jesse M file. So first, I want to give a shout out to my really good friend, Kevin Glass. I would not be at this point of having pretty much a almost fully printed C-3PO suit if it wasn't for him. He really helped me about a year ago to dive into 3D printing. He helped me set up my printer. I have a CR10S5. He helped me do upgrades, so we've upgraded the heated bed, added a bed leveling sensor, have a direct drive, and all those things have aided and helped me being able to print pretty quality prints pretty quickly, and with minimal failures, which has been awesome. Still have those failures as a part of 3D printing, but without his help, I don't think I'd be as far along as I am, so thank you, Kevin. The other thing is, Kevin actually has experience with the Jesse M files. So the super fun thing with the Jesse M files is builders are using those to create other protocol droids. So Kevin used those same files to create his 000, and his 000 is absolutely awesome, and I love it. So between him helping with printing and also having familiarity with these files, it's been an excellent resource. So again, I gotta do it one more time. Kevin, thank you so much. So now we're talking about the 3D printing and the Jesse M files and kind of where I'm at. So like I said, I have a full suit printed, but I've run into issues. And those issues, it goes back to talking about the fit. So when I spoke about how if you go and get the kits, you're kind of limited to having a physique very similar to Anthony Daniels versus 3D printed parts. You can size those to fit you better. So what were my problems that I ran into? Now first, let's kind of compare my body style and size to Anthony Daniels. I know that I'm probably about 2 or 3 inches shorter than Anthony Daniels. The other thing is that in the back of my mind when I was going into this build, I'm female, and that does actually make a little bit of a difference, and for me it's more my hips. So knowing Anthony Daniels' physique, I kind of question, are these pieces going to fit me? And when I'm talking about you're like, hey, but you just said the 3D printed size, models, your things, you can size that to fit you, so what's the big deal? Well, I need to know what size I need to print this at, so that it will fit me. So I had to do a little bit of research, because when you go into the builder groups and people want to do and print out the Jessie M files, the first question they ask is, what size do I print these so they fit me? And there's not necessarily a lot of great information on there. It's a little bit of it challenging, and I think it is always going to be trial and error for most people. But we can start to get a little bit of an idea if we understand how Jessie created these files. And how Jessie created these files is that he based them and modeled the files around the Don Post statue. If you're not familiar with the Don Post statue, it's a C-3PO statue that Don Post created, and in order to create this statue, it was modeled after a bunch of the screen-worn suit and parts that were in the Lucasfilm's archive. So if you're hawking in C-3PO Builderland and someone mentions Don Post, that statue, or someone just Don Post statue, everyone knows what that is, because that is one of the main references that C-3PO builders use to create their suits, and use it as reference because of its accuracy. So if we know that Jessie created his files based off the Don Post statue, we know that the size of his files are probably very similar in size to the Don Post statue. So why is that important? Well, what's important to note is that through the years, builders have researched, and they believe that the Don Post statue potentially is 5 up to anywhere maybe up to 10% smaller than the screen-worn suits, and that's because of how it was made. So through the molding and casting processes of those materials, you actually have a level of shrinkage, and that level of shrinkage people think is about 5 to 10%. So if you are printing the Jessie M files at 100%, it means that you are potentially printing a suit that is 5 to 10% smaller than the screen-worn suit, which means you're making something that might not even fit Anthony Daniels. So, interesting thing to think about when you want to think about, okay, what size should I do? A lot of builders tend to just start maybe printing at 5 to 7%, but I knew I was already facing some challenges. And the biggest challenge is that I'm shorter, and I know that leg fit on these suits can be challenging, and if you don't have that fit correct, it's difficult to walk. And so I figured, I'm like, well, if I'm already shorter than Anthony Daniels, maybe it makes sense to print at 100%, and the legs will be shorter, and they'll fit, and it'll be great. But then in the back of my mind, I still have to think about my hips. So I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to print this at 100%. That's exactly what I did. So all the parts that I have here are all printed at 100%. Head fit great. Torso fit great. Arms fit great. Legs, which were the next thing I did, started to fit great, but then they were too long. Sadly too long. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. I think I can fix this. First, I need to print the shorts, because the shorts are also probably, when I put those on and put the legs on, it's going to push the legs down even more, so I'm going to have to shorten the legs additionally compared to just having them trying on the legs without the shorts. As I started to go and look into the shorts, I started to realize that I might have another problem. It was going to be very questionable if these shorts were going to fit me. Printing them in one piece was probably not a good idea. So what I did is I actually printed them in 2 pieces. I split them. My idea was worst case scenario. I would use these to create a buck and vacuum form them, as I know some people do that, and it also provides you have a little bit of a slit, but it does provide you with a little bit better motion than something that is completely solid and rigid as the 3D printed shorts. So what you see here are those shorts, and don't mind this, I actually had a print failure here, but I had a feeling like, let me just print these, see if they fit, because I might have to reprint them, and unfortunately I am at the point of reprinting, and I'll show you why. If I did this again, I would print the shorts first, so if this is your first build, print the shorts first before you print the legs. Get the shorts fitting you, because it's going to inform what I have here, how you're going to print the legs. Fun tip too, all my yellow tape, gaffer's tape. I love gaffer's tape versus duct tape. Gaffer's tape works really well for, at least for this. I can hold all these things together and it's not as sticky as duct tape, and it works pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my issues that I have with these shorts. So let's go ahead and put these on and see what fun I had. Alrighty, so as we see, put these on, and actually as you can see I actually taped this side together, and I already have about an inch gap built in there, because that's how much these don't fit me. And as you see, if I can get my shirt out of the way, oh, they don't fit. Look at that, I got about an inch and a half there. So yeah, fun. So we're just gonna grab some gaffer's tape now and tape these on me to the best of my ability. Here we go. And we got some shorts on. Oh yeah, sexy shorts. Anyway, so super fun and super comfortable. But let's talk about the legs. So now this is going to be even more awkward when I get this on. I have a leg here. One leg. There you go. And okay, this is a balancing act. I don't know, let's see, can I do this? Without falling. Oh, I did. Sweet. And two legs. Oh, look at that. All right. So I guess you might say that this kind of looks okay. Not terrible, but there is actually a problem, and I'll show you why you print the shorts first before you print the legs. If I turn around here, you can see no way these shorts are fitting inside of these legs. Not gonna happen at all, sadly. And these shorts here need to fit inside of those legs. So that's not cool at all. So I definitely have some work to do. So let me take these back off now that we see how horribly these fit and how I'm gonna fix them. So let's take these off. There we go. So let's first talk about the shorts. As we saw, shorts were, I got about an inch here. I think I had about almost an inch and a half on that other side trying to squeeze myself into there. So I needed to figure out how much bigger to print those shorts so they fit me. So I started with a piece of paper. And what did I do on this piece of paper? First, I took the shorts down, and I know that my biggest issue, I really don't have an issue front to back with the shorts. It's just the width of my hips. So I took the width of the shorts, which currently is at 13 inches. And then I laid on the same piece of paper, like put this on the floor, and I laid down, and I had my husband mark the width of my hips, which ended up about here, probably a little over an inch bigger than what the width of these were. Based on that, I figured that, I need to increase the size, and I don't want to increase it too much, because I'm worried if I increase it too much, then it's going to be too big and really too big in the waist, and potentially then I start to get almost too much movement in the shorts. So based on some math and the things that I did, I decided that I'm going to print the shorts 11% bigger. which then gives me about a measurement of, instead of 13 wide, I have about 14.43 wide. So I'm going to print those. I'm going to see what it is. And it's interesting, the 11%, kind of close on that high-end estimate, but the Don Post statue could be anywhere maybe 10% too small. So I'm getting a little closer there. So I don't, when I go to reprint these shorts, this is a lot of filament, which is fine. I'm glad I printed it. So I definitely have a better feel for everything that I'm doing. But I don't want to reprint all of this again. And also, by the way, all these parts that I'm not using are not going to go to waste. They're going to a really good friend of mine that does a Chewbacca, so he's going to be building a C-3PO backpack for his Chewie. So that's awesome. It'd help one of my fellow costumers. So don't worry, not going to waste. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a strip. I'm in my slicer. I'm only going to print like a slice of this, specifically in the areas right where my hip is biggest, to make sure that I have a good fit before I go and I print this. I will still also potentially print this in 2 parts versus 1. I think I might go into vacuum forming these, more so from the fact that I don't think I'll ever be able to pull these on and over my hips because of how these are. It's going to be challenging. I think vacuum form is going to be the way to go, but we'll find out as I go along. But now that I'm printing these, let's say the 11% works for me. That's going to inform how big next I have to print my legs, and that provides other challenges when we start getting into fit. Those are printed at 11%. Guess what? Legs have to get printed at 11%. What does that mean? Why is that bad for me? It means that the legs are going to get longer. They already didn't fit me in the length, so I'm going to have to do some editing of these. So before I didn't know that the legs or the shorts were going to fit me, I already knew the legs were too long. I had them printed out. I tried them on and I'm like, this is just not going to work. You can actually see here, if I can come up real close, I have a line drawn right here. And that was my idea, was if the shorts fit, that I could trim this down, I could rebuild the edge, and that would then help shorten these. And I was going to do the same thing on the bottom of the shins as well, where I could cut that. But now that I have to reprint these because they need to be wider around, I'm going to still take these. I'm going to probably just trim this off to get an idea of how much length I need to take off of the legs in order to get them to fit me. Once I know that, so as I trim, I'm going to carefully measure what I trim. Once I know that, then I can take that times it by the 11% or whatever percentage I end up printing the shorts at. Once I figure out what fits me, then I know how much material or length I need to remove. And there's a few different ways I can do this. Someone came up with a clever technique in the C-3PO builders group, and they shared it with me, which requires just, you don't want to, I guess, first step back. First thing to do to shorten these, you don't want to just shorten them on the Z-axis, because it's going to squish it and it's going to throw off your proportions, specifically in the knee area. We have that nice circle right here. If you do this, it's going to turn into an oval, and that, I guarantee you, your knee joint's not going to work as well, and it's going to look wrong, right? So how do we do this? How are we going to fix this? How am I going to make it? There's probably a few different ways. You could work on taking out a slice, a chunk, and removing it, but then you might have to do some remodeling to make sure all your lines line up. Or this gentleman, I think he sliced it and then reduced it on a Z-axis in an area that didn't have anything that would really malform in shape when reduced on the Z-axis, and then he was able to put it together. So I'm going to play around with a few of these different techniques. Once I figure it out, I'll share it with you all, and I'll let you know how that goes. So yeah, fun. Fitting C-3PO. A lot of work, but I'm really excited, and I think taking the time to make sure that it fits me well along the way is going to go a long way to making sure that I'm comfortable and able to move the way that I want to move in the costume. And with that, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll probably be diving back into my Isaac build, and I'll have a few more videos about my progress on that. It's probably going to take me a little bit to figure out the direction on C-3PO, but once I do, I'll make some more videos and I'll share that with all of you. Anyway, talk to y'all later. Bye.